Hey terrainiacs, Mel the Terrain Tutor back in the studio and back with another Let's Make for you. Now we're continuing our sort of Greenfield Countryside Scenic series. Yeah, there'll be a link up in one of these corners where you can go check it out. But in this particular video what we're looking at is sort of dirt tracks, dirt roads, you know, countryside roads, but specifically not cobbled roads or tarmac. Specifically dirt roads in this one. Now fundamentally it is just essentially basing, but roads tend to be long and thin and that can cause issues with warping, so we're going to be looking at a load of different techniques to sort of combat that and make some awesome looking, roads. So shall I get cracked on? Come on! Now when it comes to roads and tracks and that sort of stuff, there's lots of different ways we can do this as wargamers, but what I want to do is stick with the materials we've mainly been using in our Let's Makes, because technically if you're following these along you'll already have these materials and so you won't have to go out and buy anything out or any new techniques. Now when it comes to making roads and that sort of stuff, it is essentially basing. You know, it's not a massive challenge to make roads, but roads present certain challenges, and the problem is that they tend to be, specifically the straights, long and thin. And we know that because we want our roads to sort of blend in with our tables and not be little hills, we want them as flat as possible. And we know from past experience that flat, thin, long, pieces, they tend to warp, and so in this video what I'm going to be doing is showing you a few different ways of sort of battling the warp. Now what I've got, battling the warp, I sound like a grey knight. Right, what I've got is 3 pieces, 4 inches, 3.5 and 2 or 2.5 I think, and we're going to do a road, sort of a track and a path, okay? Now, obviously if we're going to build these up, what we need to do is firm this one up, so with this one first, our road, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these, lollipop sticks, popsicle sticks if you're stateside, and basically all I've done is I've cut 4 out, I've pre-measured them so that they fit, and if I bring them up, you'll notice just at the very edges, I've just gone along with a bit of a bevel. Now for basing my roads and my paths, I've got my standard expanded PVC. It's 3mm stuff. And as always, I've just picked it up as scrap from the sign printers. And all I'm going to do, and specifically using a gel super glue, or normal super glue, but a super glue, I'm going to glue these onto here, okay? And basically create a rim either side. So I'm going to do that now. So there we are, they're glued down now, and it makes a hell of a difference. I mean, it really does. Now, I've got no fears now that I don't have to worry about warping with this piece now. Now, obviously, if you're doing curves and that sort of stuff, it'll take a bit of shaping and you have to cut them and that sort of stuff. But, that is a very simple way of sturdying up. And since popsicle sticks, lollipop sticks are only sort of 2mm, you've only got 5mm up here, which means it will sit on the table beautifully. Without sort of looking like it's too much. Now the next step, is I need to cover and blend these edges in. So if I bring that up, we've got a bit of a step there and it's a bit flat, so I want to put a bit of filler on this. But before I do, I want to do some work on this one. Now, what happens if I don't want popsicle sticks on them both? What else have you got for me? Right, standard EPVC again, this time Milliput. Milliput is a 2-part epoxy putty. So basically mix these 2 parts together and you get a putty that will go rock hard. Now it doesn't shrink, so it won't warp. Air drying clay does shrink, so if I put air drying clay on this, it would warp it. So Milliput. So I'm going to mix some of this up, and I'll get this down on here. So I've rolled out a nice thin bit, now it's mixed up, a little roll, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to drop it down onto there, just like that, and then fingers either side, just come along and sort of push it down. I'm not trying to get it perfect, I'm just trying to get it stuck to the board at the minute. We can shape it afterwards. It's a bit steep, isn't it? So, put it on like that. And then all I've got to do is with my thumb, and a little bit of water. Where's my water? I'll find my water. But with my thumb, I'm just going to smooth it down and make these a little less prominent. So I'm going to do this on this side, I'm going to do it on this side, and then I'm going to just add a couple up the middle, okay? So there we have it, guys. Yeah, I've put my rolls out, I pushed them down, I've smoothed them out with a wet finger, okay, and I've put some blobs down the middle. Now when these dry, yeah, this will go really rock hard and it will really toughen this up and resist that warping, okay. So just got to leave these to dry now. Yeah, and it's used very little. I probably used a ball about that big. Yeah, now on top of that, I've got my sort of path track here. Okay, and I've put some blobs on that, but they're purely cosmetic. I don't need to worry about warping on this piece. And the reason being is, before I actually put the blobs on, I basically taped to the bottom half of it. And what this does is it really toughens it up. I don't want to bend it because it's got the stuff on. Yeah, but it really does make a difference. And all that is this standard brown parcel tape. Now this has got no give in it, no stretch whatsoever. So by putting a piece of that underneath there, I reinforce this, and so when it tries to warp, it's warping against, you know, it's sort of pulling against a much larger force, yeah, than just the material alone. Yeah, so it won't warp. Now there is one thing I need to do. Yeah, I've just got to put a little bit of filler onto here. Okay, so I'm going to push those to there because I can't grit those up yet until until that milli put is dried, which will take an hour or two. Yeah, so get out my filler. Spackle in the US. I use Dial from B&Q. Lovely stuff. Yeah, I get my finger out because I like getting messy. Yeah, I get my my piece with, that's really firm. Yeah, with popsicle sticks on. See, I'm starting to call them popsicle sticks now. And all I'm going to do is I'm just looking to blend in that edge. Yeah, that's all I'm looking to do. So if I bring that up, yeah, and then with a wet finger I can sort of smooth it off. Yeah, let me bring that up, do you see? So all I'm going to do is, where I've got all these edges and stuff, I'm just going to blend these in, okay? I'll crack on with that now. I do like playing with filler, it gets all messy. Right, there you go. Now it is rather shiny, isn't it? But you should be able to see how basically I've got the humps on there. Just a little bit of a bevel, and if we put it down on the table, it's nothing at all. Now obviously we've got to texture these and all this sort of stuff, but I don't want to do any of that till all of these are dry. I mean, I could have done it on this one if I hadn't added the milli put, but I did. Yeah, so we've got to leave those to dry. Yeah, right guys, these are dry now and they are really, really sturdy. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, there's a little bit of flex in them, but you will get that anyway. But the important thing is that they're tough enough to resist warping. Yeah, and obviously this one is as well, but you know, that's down to the tape on the back, not so much what we added to the sides. So next job is to texture our pieces up, but before we do, I want to show you a technique. Sometimes when they do countryside roads, they'll put like tank tracks and horse hooves and all that sort of stuff into it, and it's done by basically putting a putty down that you make impressions into. Now I could have done this at the milli put stage with my spare milli put, but I didn't do it because I wanted to show you, like, you know, the sturdying it up, you know, the anti-warping. Now, so with that in mind, yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use filler. Yeah, so I get a big blob here on my finger, yeah, and I'm going to use this one to show you the tracks, and all I'm going to do is run the filler up and down, yeah, and smooth it out. You see what I'm doing there? Yeah, and once it is smoothed out, right, and that's it all put on. Next thing I need to do is just smooth it a little. So I've dipped my finger in a bit of water. I'm just going to run it over and just give it a quick coat of water. Yeah, a very thin one. This will sort of take any fingerprints off it. Yeah, and just smooth out any last details. And we get it to where it's like that. Now all I need to do is just leave it for a couple of minutes for the excess moisture to sort of dry off. Okay, so it goes to like a soft, smooth putty. Yeah, and at that point I can come along and I can start adding stuff. One thing you can do at this stage, now I've got filler on my finger, give me a sec. Right, one thing you can start doing at this stage is adding the grit. Now I'm just going to take little pinches of this. Yeah, so I've only got tiny little grit bits, and I'm just going to sprinkle them over the centre. I'm not worried about getting them anywhere sort of on these edges here. Okay, I'm doing it very fine because a lot of the texture is going to come from the filler. Yeah, I just want to break it up a little. And if I bring it up, you can sort of see the moisture in it. Yeah. Now all I need to do is wait until it's no longer shiny. Okay, and as soon as that shine goes, it's time for me to do the impressions in. So let's just give it a couple of minutes. Right, it's almost done now. It's just got a little shimmer to it. Yeah, and what we're going to do is dead simple. First off, yeah, I've got a little bit of plastic tubing. Let me bring that up. Yeah, and I've cut a little wedge out of it. And what I'm going to do is dead simple, come along straight down the middle, just start tapping them in. And what that's going to do is that's going to give me my horseshoes. And there we go. If I bring it up, yeah, do you see the horseshoe prints? Yeah, and as the filler sets, it will just take those and grip them. Now the other thing is obviously, country tracks, they might have had, what you call it, you know, a little bit later, trucks and that stuff going down. So what I've got is, I've got a wheel on a stick. Now actually this was being airbrushed because it's part of my Daimler for my Chimnits, but it'll do for this purpose. And all I'm going to do is, I need to get my wheel straight. Can't have a wonky wheel. Yeah, is I'm just going to drive it down and make some tracks in there. Yeah. If I bring that up. Yeah, which are perfect. Now, if you want more detail than this, then obviously go with something like milliput. Just put a thin layer of milliput down, yeah, and if you do it that way, what you call it, it's a lot more, it'll hold the detail a lot more. Okay, so I'm going to put a couple more tracks in this and then we'll leave it to dry, yeah? So that's our filler technique done. Right, next one is I want to show you PVA, but I could just give this a coat of PVA and just lay grit down on it. Yeah, it's certainly sturdy enough, it'll take it, but I wanted to show you a little trick. Right, I've got my brown base paint there, okay, and I've got some PVA here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in about 1/6 PVA. Yeah, so nowhere near enough to do that, but when mixed with the paint, I'll give it a mix. So when it's mixed with the paint, that and the acrylic binder essentially makes my glue. Now, I'm only putting a fine layer of grit down on this, so I'm not gluing anything heavy, so to coat all of it with PVA, although I can do, it's a bit overkill. So I'm just going to get this, and I'm not particularly worried about the sides, so it's only the middle I'm interested in. So nice, quick and wet and, you know what I mean, messy. I like messy. So put a coat on. Yeah, I haven't gone over completely the edges. I don't need to on this. I'm only gritting. But if I bring it up, you can see it's just thick enough that you know you can just about see the streaks through it. And then much like we did with our filler, yeah, we're just going to get my bog standard grit. Yeah, which is sort of sharp sand, coarse sand, a couple of rocks thrown in. And we're just going to start sprinkling. Yeah, and you'll see that it immediately soaks into the paint. Yeah, and the paint will soak it up and grip it. And if I bring it up, yeah, do you see how by putting the grit in, it sort of sucked that wet paint around it and sort of made this very patchy. Okay, and that works perfect. You know, it'll just sort of blend in when we give it our paint. Yeah, so drop that on there. And that's how to use that's how to sort of reduce the amount of PVA you're using by using the paint as the binder. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll leave that one to dry, yeah, along with that one. And what we'll do is we'll do this one next. Right, for our really thin one, what I thought I'd do is show you a different technique. So we've covered the filler, we've covered paint and PVA. In this one, what we're going to do is use fast tack. Now this is a spray adhesive, and the good thing about spray adhesives is that they don't constrict. They just lay down in their adhesive, which means there's no warping with them, so they're great for roads. So what I'm going to do is, very quickly, I'm just going to step off to the side, give this a quick spray. Yeah, and that's had a spray on it now, and then all I need to do is very much like the others. Yeah, grab my very, very fine sand, just sprinkle it along it and make my path. Alright, there you are, finished sprinkling, and if I bring it up, yeah, lovely. Now remember, it is a contact adhesive, so it will only take the bottom layer. With PVA and paint and stuff like that will soak up, drawn up through the grit to attach, you know, what's on top of it and larger pieces. With this, it's got to literally stick to it, which means you get a very low profile. Okay? Yeah, but once again, no warping because it's contact spray adhesive, isn't it? Right, I'll put this down and just let these to dry, and then we'll come back with the painting, yeah? Right, all dry and straight off, yeah, obviously no warping across the board. Now, but if I bring them up, yeah, there's our tracks. That was our filler and grit sprinkled on, and it's on. It's stuck down quite firmly. Yeah, obviously it needs painting, sealing, all that sort of stuff, but it's good enough to proceed, so to speak. Yeah, and if I bring it up, you can see the sort of track marks. Beautiful, isn't it? Right, over to our paint and PVA. Yeah, and once again, yeah, you can see the texture we've got on this one, and yeah, it's pretty well stuck down. Obviously there's a few light bits. The darker areas are going to be stuck the best, obviously, because there's more paint PVA mixture there, but it's enough for us to get painting. Yeah, and then finally we have our adhesive. Yeah, and yeah, of all the lot, this is the most lightly stuck down, to be perfectly honest, because it's going straight onto like plastic, and you know what plastic's like for adhesives, bare plastic, and it is grit, so I don't want to rub it too much. Yeah, but we know we're putting more on, it'll grip while we actually get this painted up. So next stage, paint them up. So what's the battle plan? Dead simple. There's two ways of painting. First off, our standard way, which is our watered down house paints. Yeah, just standard interior paint. Yeah, and then the other option when you're doing pieces like this is to actually go for a coloured primer, or go for a primer initially. And the reason being is house paints contain an acrylic binder. It does shrink. It can cause warping. It's only got a slight warping effect, but if you put it on too heavy, it can. You know what I mean? Yeah. So in the case of this really thin bit, okay, I'm going to use what you call it, a coloured primer, and this is just a brown. Okay. The other benefit of that is whenever you've got a grit which is lightly tacked on, because we use spray adhesive on this one, yeah, using a spray or using an airbrush with house paints means you've not got the friction from the actual brushing it on, which can dislodge it. Yeah, so it's always a better option. You know what I mean? Right, so I'm not going to show you putting me brush on them. You know, basically it's going to be like I'll get a brush, yeah, and I'll do like something like that. Yeah, and I'll just keep doing it until they're all brown. Yeah. Guys, I know you know how to paint. Right, we've covered it now. Let's crack on. Right, that's them all base coated, and if I bring them up, first one our ones with that detail, and straight away, yeah, one really solid. You know, no worries with this whatsoever, no warping at all. Yeah, and I wasn't expecting any. And then watch clip, we've got the horseshoes, we've got the tyre tracks, and if I bring them up really, really close. Yeah, do you see we've actually got the imprint from the wheel as well? Yeah, easy as that. Yeah, and then if we put them over there, next one. Yeah, simple grit. It's worked out rather nice. And then finally, a thin, what you call it, sort of path track. Yeah, and once again, yeah, really solid. That primer worked wonders. Right, next job is we've got to get this, all these sort of painted up. Now when it comes to painting them up, yeah, we've got all sorts of colours to consider, but you're looking at mainly your browns, yeah, and depending on how dry it is, depends on how light you want to go. Now we've already pretty light with this, so we're going to highlight it up with probably a cream. Yeah, so if I take a cream on this one, yeah, I'll throw a bit on my palette. Yeah, and then it's just simple dry brushing. So take a brush, yeah, a little bit on, take the excess off on a bit of cardboard. Yeah, cardboard's always great for taking the excess off because it literally sucks the moisture out of the paint. It's far better for dry brushing with than using tissues and that sort of stuff, I've found, especially terrain. Yeah, and then once you've got it to that sort of stage, yeah, all you're going to do is just give it a bit of a dry brush. Now, when you dry brush, quick tip, when you drag it up, don't change direction until you're off the piece, because as you change direction and come back the other way, you actually force the bristles in and you'll end up with a splodge. Yeah, so you just keep going one way. Yeah, and if I bring it up, there you go. And it is as simple as that in the simplest form. You know, one colour, one quick go over. Remember, these have got to be flocked so it won't look so bare once they are. Yeah, right, now, I'm going to do something similar with these. Yeah, just a simple dry brush, but I'm going to use slightly lighter colours, so I'll crack on with that. Now for this piece, all I've done is I've just given it a bit of a highlight, a bit of a dry brush with this brown, and then just a very subtle sort of another highlight again, yeah, with that brown mixed in with a little bit of that beige, okay? And that's how it's come out. Oh, they're nice. Yeah, once again, it does look sort of monotone because at the moment, yeah, it's just all brown and everything, isn't it? Yeah, we need to get it flocked up. Right, over to the next one now. Right, with our final piece, yeah, because it's a bit muddy, I want to be a bit more subtle with how I do this one. Okay, and so rather than just the standard dry brush, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of mixing. So I've got some brown there, yeah, and we'll throw in some of that light brown there, mix that up a bit. Yeah, that's alright, a little bit more I think. Yeah, I am just mixing on the palette here. Obviously if you're going to do it pre-mix, get your colours, yeah, so you've got standardised colour across the whole range of pieces, because you're not just going to be doing one. Yeah. Now at the same time, I'm not going to dry brush this. Okay. The reason being is dry brush creates a very sort of high contrast technique like that. Okay. This is damp brushing. This is over brushing. So my brush is damp. I'm not using the cardboard. Yeah. And then very gently, I am just sweeping along. Once I've blown off all the little bits off it. Yeah. There we go. And if I bring that up, start to see the technique. Right, I need to do a little bit more work on this, bring it up a little, yeah, and then what I'll do is I'll give it a quick smooth over with a bit of water, and what that'll do is it'll blend out down a bit. Right, we've got it to that stage. Yeah, it's a bit messy, isn't it? Right, next thing, yeah, all I've got is a little bit of water. Take off that excess paint actually before I put it on. You'll just smear it everywhere. Yeah, and all I'm going to do is that. Yeah, see what's still happening? Now this will thin it down. And create tones. Trust me on this, I know what I'm doing. Right, that's what it looks like now. Let's leave it to dry, eh? Right, they're all dry now, so if I bring it up very quickly, we've got our simple light texture. Looks beautiful, doesn't it? Yeah. Then we've got our dark road. Yeah, and then the one you really wanted to see. Yeah, the wet effect mud. Yeah. Beautiful, isn't it? Works an absolute treat. Now the next thing we need to do is get these flocked up. Okay. Now, dead simple. PVA. Now because they're long and thin, once again we want to be handling any warping issues. Okay, so we need to thin our PVA down. Now don't worry about thinning it down too much that the flock won't stick on. Yeah, because the fact of the matter is, flock one sucks up moisture, and so it really absorbs the PVA really well and adheres really well. And on top of that, yeah, it's tiny sawdust. You don't need that much glue to get it on. You know what I mean? Yeah. If I was gluing down bushes and something like that, then I'd be a little bit more concerned. But if I bring this up, I mean it's mixed with some of the brown because you know it's my palette. Yeah, but that's how much I've watered this PVA down. Okay. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to get my PVA, and we will do. Which one should we do first? Eeny, meeny, miny. We'll do this one because this is probably the best example. Okay. Yeah, obviously the sides I want to cover completely one side. Yeah, this side, the flat side, where we haven't put our texture. Yeah. And then I want to sort of bring it down the other edge. Yeah, because I want some flock to stick there. Yeah, a couple of little tabs across it. Yeah, so we've got it like that. Next job, I want to highlight across the top, so I've got my really dark stuff. Yeah, so straight across the top for the dark stuff. Yeah, little hot spots for me. Yeah. and a little bit coming towards the edge. So it goes like that. Yeah, then I want my dark. So I'll get my dark here, and I'll just want to put a couple of little right at this edge. Yeah. Just to break it up a bit. Yeah, just like that. And then finally, I can't dunk it in, so I'm just going to have to sprinkle it. Oh, need a bit more there. See, I've come up and I've not covered quite that corner. Yeah, so you can do this. It's a bit messy, but you know, we can pull these things off. A little bit more light there, I think. Yeah, and then there we go. Yeah, and it is as simple as that. Now all we need to do is continue this. So I'm just going to flock the rest of this up, and then I'll show you when they're done, guys. Right, so the flock's all dry now, and if I bring them up, yeah, our simple path. Beautiful, isn't it? Absolutely beautiful. Yeah, and then obviously we've got our road, which has had, like, you know, vehicles over it and that sort of stuff. Perhaps a little heavy in the middle, I think. I might have to scrub that back a bit, get the toothbrush on it and just break it up a bit. Yeah, we can do that, it's not a problem. Yeah, obviously, we've got to add clump foliage and all that sort of stuff onto that one as well. Yeah, and then finally our muddy path. Now, if I bring the muddy path up, you'll notice there's quite a contrast between where we've done our muddy work, yeah, and our actual flock. You know, it's almost like green, brown, you know, it wouldn't be like that. Yeah, so, what I've got over here, dead simple, is I've got some of my base brown, and all I've done is I've really watered it down. In fact, I'm going to water it down some more. Yeah, to make it nice and translucent. And what this will do is it'll just stain the flock so it looks a bit like mud. We did a similar thing on the craters in the Battlefield Basic, in the Battlefield, Battlefield Basics videos. And all I'm going to do is just come along and just put some of this along here. So if I bring that up, yeah, you see what I'm doing? And when that dries, what it'll do is it will stain that so it makes it look a bit like the grass has got mud on it and that sort of stuff. So I'm going to quickly do that, and then we'll start putting some clump foliage on. While that brown wash dries, yeah, what we'll do is we'll just put some clump foliage on these. Now, standard principles apply, so here's a piece. Yeah, I've got some neat PVA on there. I've got, once again, much like the rest of this series, we've got some dark tufts and some light tufts. Yeah, and then I've got a mixture of clump foliage from the folks over at Foreground. It's just some bits out off one of their trees, so yeah, that's all it is. Yeah, now applying foliage is quite simple. All we're going to do is we're going to grab some foliage, some clump foliage with my fingers. Yeah. Dip it in the PVA. Yeah, and then just come along, and as always, do you see here where I've lost a little bit of flock off the top of this? Yeah, that's the perfect place to put a bit of clump foliage. Do you see? Yeah, and it's as simple as that. Just push it down. Now obviously this will hold it in place, and then when we seal the whole piece at the end, yeah, we put our watered down PVA on it, that'll just hold it all in place. Now at the same time, yeah, we've got these lovely little tufts. So let's get some tufts. Yeah, pull them off. Now these are self-adhesive, which means they'll stick straight down, but a little bit of PVA never harmed. I said a little. Yeah, and then if you just want to, you know, drop those in various spots, they look quite nice. Yeah. So the next job I've got to do is I've just got to add a load of clump foliage along these, yeah, and sort of clump them up. Okay, I'll go for lighter stuff with the light, yeah, and then as I go darker, I'll go for darker stuff. So with the really muddy one, yeah, you know, I'll just go for the dark pieces on that. So guys, that's them pretty much dry now. Obviously I want to wait a little while longer before I seal them, and when I seal them I'll be using PVA, yeah, mixed with 1 part PVA, 6 parts water, and just enough to sort of, you know, to wet them. Yeah, and that'll hold it all together. So if I pick them up and bring them up, yeah, there's our path. Yeah, our really light and dusty path, and that's worked really well. Okay, obviously the clump foliage and the flocks and all that sort of stuff are down to you, but above all, you know, the techniques we use to put this together, yeah, the tape, the spray adhesive and the primer, yeah, has resulted in a piece which, no warping, even though it's long and thin. Yeah, moving over to this one, yeah, now this was our more traditional one, yeah, the paths have worked well, I've feathered those down. Clump foliage is on, it's looking rather nice. Yeah, obviously this is our milliput one, and once again, no warping whatsoever. Yeah, which was the main thing about this video, you know, the techniques which don't cause warping. And then, you know, for our really, really muddy path, yeah, and I've got to say, out of all of them, it's probably my favourite. I could do it better if I spent more time on it, you know what I mean, but it really is quite nice. Yeah. And once again, yeah, this one was dead simple. Obviously we used the filler for the texturing, you know, sprinkled on a grit. But the real secret here is those lollipop sticks, yeah, that to make it really sturdy. Yeah, which has resulted in, once again, no warping whatsoever. So there you have it, guys. Yeah, loads of different techniques for making mud paths, roads, paths, dirt tracks, all that sort of palaver, you know what I mean? Right, let me set up for the long shot. So that's it, guys. That's everything you need to sort of put together dirt tracks, roads, paths. You've seen all the techniques, the materials, how I've combated the warping, how I've used different adhesives, different painting techniques. You know, and obviously we've done also like the detailing, you know, the horse hooves, the vehicle tracks, and also the mudding and the feathering on the side. Just pick out of it what you need to use, okay, to make your tracks. But obviously you can make your paths out of all the same materials that we've done in the rest of this Let's Make series. Okay, now moving forward, obviously like it, share it and all that sort of stuff. If you've got any questions, yeah, down in the comments. If you've got any suggestions, down in the comments. And as always, guys, if you really do like these videos and they do help you with your hobby and you want to support, you know, just a dad who's trying to, you know, make his dream job come true and put food on the table at the same time, then please consider like jumping on Patreon and doing that $1 a month pledge. And if you don't like the idea of charity, consider it a subscription. $12 for the year, 100 tutorials. It's not bad, is it? You know? Right, if you're not into what you call it Patreon, by the way, you just want to do a one-off, yeah, there's a link down below to PayPal, and you can just send a one-off as a gift that way. Yeah, it all helps kitting out this studio. At the minute I'm trying to get a sort of a rig set up and all that sort of stuff, you know, so I can improve the way I film and do overhead filming and soundproofing and all that sort of stuff. But I can only make it happen with your support, guys. So genuinely, yeah, if you like these vids and you look forward to them, consider throwing $1 the way, you know, and becoming a patron, becoming awesome, guys. If you are into that, yeah, then check it out up there. Obviously, if you're new to the channel, then you can subscribe up there. If you want to do the PayPal thing, that's down there. And if you're looking for more videos to watch, yeah, well, they're there and they're there. And I'm feeling like an air hostess, cabin crew, sorry. And so I will say good night. Crack on, terrainiacs. Ta-ra.